Why did nations justify inaction at the Evian conference? Imagine a world on the brink of a humanitarian crisis, yet the nations gathered seem hesitant to act. That was the scene at the Evian conference in July 1938. It was called to find solutions for Jewish refugees fleeing Nazi persecution. But instead of offering help, most countries offered excuses. Why did they hold back? Let's explore the reasons behind their inaction. First, many countries had strict immigration laws and quotas that limited how many refugees they could admit. The United States pointed to existing laws that required approval from Congress, which was unlikely at the time. Britain was worried about the tensions in Palestine, where Jewish refugees might upset the fragile balance with Arabs. France said it had already taken in many refugees and was reluctant to accept more. These legal barriers made it easier for nations to justify not changing their policies. Second, the economic situation played a big role. The world was still recovering from the Great Depression, and many countries feared that more refugees would strain their economies further. People worried about rising unemployment and social unrest. Leaders also held prejudiced views, fearing that large numbers of Jewish refugees might threaten their racial or ethnic makeup. Canadian Prime Minister Mackenzie King, for example, expressed concerns about maintaining racial purity and avoiding social problems. These fears made governments hesitant to open their doors. Third, the conference itself showed a lack of real commitment. Delegates expressed sympathy but avoided making concrete promises. They offered vague statements and excuses for not helping more. Only the Dominican Republic agreed to accept a small number of refugees, but that was a rare exception. No coordinated plan was created, and many left the conference with little hope of change. Finally, the geopolitical climate influenced decisions. Countries were cautious about offending Nazi Germany. They feared that welcoming Jewish refugees might anger Hitler or harm diplomatic relations. Some leaders also worried that refugees could become security risks or economic burdens later on. These concerns made nations prefer to stay silent rather than take action. In the end, the justification for inaction at the Evian conference came down to legal restrictions, economic fears, social prejudices, political caution, and diplomatic worries. Their collective reluctance sent a message of indifference that emboldened the Nazi regime. It also worsened the plight of Jewish refugees, who found fewer places to escape to. The Evian conference remains a stark reminder of how hesitation and excuses can have tragic consequences.